Right then, this is a big experiment. I've decided to do a few Q&As because I get bombarded with questions. So, but rather than in the warmth and security of my house, I've decided to come on the bank. Now, it's gone 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I've fed what 6-7 times whilst I've been setting up. I've just brought a rod with me and my phone for the questions, and I'm at a place called TK Fisheries. I've never ever fished it before, but it's nice and quiet, out the way. There's no one else here, there's not a soul here. So I thought I'd give it a go. Just feed a few more, just feeding 5 or 6 maggots just to see what we can catch. Now I've plumbed up, and all I've got to do now is take my waggler off if it's not tangled. Sorry, take my hook length off and put on a more sensible winter hook length, because that's got I think that's 0.18 to a size 12, so that's a bit of a pellet waggler hook. But I'm going to take it off and put well, I don't know what I'm going to catch. There are carp in here, there are silvers, just from looking at the pictures online, and I did a feature here many years ago with my old hero Bob Taylor, who's sadly not with us anymore. It was called a different name back then. It was called Angler's Hideaway. And that was my one and only visit to the place. So I've literally driven up and down, decided where. I've just sat in the middle of the lake. There's a little lily bed sort of in the middle, and I plumbed up, what's that, about 6 foot, 7 foot. So let's find a hook length. I want an MXC1 size 16, and I'm going to fish 0.14 to begin with. A bit of a catch-all sort of diameter really. See what we can catch. I'm just going to fish double maggot, and I've literally just brought my 12-foot Horizon waggler, which is a beautiful rod. 3 gram insert. That's a matrix insert waggler, actually, a loaded one with 3 number 9s down the line. I generally use round shot, but for this sort of game, when I'm making a rig up on the bank, I'll use stots. So I've got 3 number 9 stots. It might need another one, but this is literally my first cast. So we'll start fishing, and then this is just something to do in the meantime whilst I'm trying to answer some questions. It's probably got 6 pound line on it, so it's not ideal, but we'll have a quick look and then we'll answer some questions. We might get a bite straight away, you never know, but we're just likely not going to get a bite at all. But I'd rather do something here than in my messy study or garage. So we might get a bite instantly. I know there's tension here, I know there's carp in here, I know there's roach in here. I believe there were barbel in here. I don't know if they're still in here. I'll just bring this up a touch. But I don't normally fish a waggler with a rod rest, but I will today. Oh, no. Wasn't looking. Float temporarily disappeared. Oh, must have cast one of those maggots off. Unless something snaffled it without me looking. 3, they're not the freshest of maggots either. So you can fish double maggot and loose feed maggots. Love this way of fishing. If I was coming here today for pleasure fishing anyway, this is all I'd do. Overcast it a little bit, bring it in, sink the line. We'll fire a few more maggots over, and then we'll have a look at my phone and see what questions we've got to answer. No, it's not gone above 2 degrees all day. I was expecting this to be a bit more white over. It might have even been frozen this morning. So the chances of getting a bite are pretty slim. But more like to get a bite here than at home in my study. So let's have a look. Let's get my phone. And I must say, I put a post up on my YouTube channel, what, 3 or 4 days ago. I checked it after an hour. I thought, oh, I don't know if anyone's going to send any questions in, and all of a sudden I've got 40-50 questions. So I'm going to pick the best and probably answer for about 40 minutes, and then I'll do another one if it's successful. The cameras are all fired up, so let's have a look. Q&A. Well, that's sitting there lovely. It's just tripping bottom. I plumbed up with a more buoyant waggler, and then I've swapped over to this nice little insert waggler. It's just sitting there lovely. I don't want to get too near that lily bed just yet. We'll just twitch it. Right. Let's see what we've got then. Now some of them, I know some of the questions were very, very general, so I'm gonna unfortunately have to give quite a general answer to them. But if you're a bit more specific, and maybe even a little bit more random with the questions, and you know, it's some of the questions I could write a book about, and some of the questions, you know, maybe a one sentence answer. So right, I'll start off with the daftest one I've got. From a certain Ant Rog. What's your favourite yellow curved fruit? I wonder what he's implying with that. Well, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but whenever I do a video I tend to have a banana on my side tray. So and he's a bit of a banana fan. He's definitely got a bit of fixation with bananas, but my favourite curved fruit is a lemon. No, it's not really. It's a foam banana. So well, we'll get the daft one out of the way. No, I'm partial to a banana or two. Goes well with my Freddo. So let's see. Cool, that's a long one from Gareth Dace. Hi John. Oh, there's a load of sheep running by. Hi John, could you cover match management, how you assess your match, what triggers what, and how you gauge where you are to what you think next? Also, I'm sounding daft, but what is watercraft? I'm probably doing it, but hear the term, but not sure what it pertains to. I've got a load of sheep opposite with chesty coughs. Well, watercraft, let's start with watercraft first. Watercraft is just the general ability to read a swim, to read what's going on, get to your peg, even before you get to your peg. For me, watercraft is being stealthy. You know, we're hunting, so watercraft in a way is a huntsman's instinct. So it's about getting to your peg nice and quietly, setting up quietly, trying to work out where the fish are in the peg, understanding where the fish are. So it's winter now, it's cold. The fish aren't going to be mooching around down the margins. They're not going to be in a foot or 2 foot of water. They're going to be in the deepest water or the areas that get the most sun. So good watercraft to me is like saying, okay, that bank gets the sunlight, this bank doesn't get the sunlight. They're most likely going to be where the most warmth is going to be, or the feeding fish at least. Because they're little solar panels really, these fish. So that's watercraft in a way, just reading the swim. If you was on a river, watercraft would be understanding where the faster areas and slower areas, and trying to find the crease, because fish often sit on the crease and move in and out of the flow to intercept food. You know, things like that is watercraft. Understanding depths, understanding you know, different, if the water changes colour, if you've got a hard bottom or a soft bottom. It's all sorts. It's just, watercraft is basically understanding the environment, I think. And that applies equally to a commercial, a very uniform looking commercial, as it does to a winding river or a canal. There's always watercraft. If I was on a canal, there's always a central boat channel, knowing that boats and bridges and bushes and that will hold fish. That's watercraft to me. So on a commercial, just knowing that certain, you know, reed beds and things will hold fish, but also the fact that if it's a foot deep against a reed bed, good watercraft will tell you they're not against the reeds in the winter. They'll be away. They'll probably be in 2 or 3 foot of water, unless they're sunning themselves. And then that I suppose watercraft really comes into play with dobbing bread and things like that as well. I always think dobbing bread, where you're just suspending a single hook bait around a peg, it's almost like underwater battleships. So you're trying to work out where these submarines are, and good watercraft will hopefully give you a better understanding of where the fish might be. I've come here, I've never been here before. it widens up here a little bit in the middle, and there's a lily bed just to my right, and the wind's sort of off my back, so it's nice and calm and everything. So I don't know what to expect today, but Watercraft tells me sit in the middle of the lake, you're certainly going to be more likely to catch than you are in a corner. It'll be feast or famine in a corner. Again, Watercraft will tell you that fishing with a warm wind in your face in the summer is fantastic, but as soon as you get to the depths of winter, if you've got a cold wind in your face, there probably won't be any fish there. They'll be out the way in the sheltered areas. So they follow the wind in the summer and they hide from the wind in the winter. That's good Watercraft. So hopefully that answers that question. And what was the other part? The other part was a bit of a two-part question really, wasn't it? How do you assess your match? What triggers what, and how you gauge where you are to what you think next? Well, it comes with, well, match management was what you was after really, wasn't it? And it's understanding what's going on in your own peg, but also every match is different, and it depends what the anglers are doing around you as well. If suddenly someone goes out and they're going bang, 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 catching shallow, then you've also got to think, oh crikey, you know, perhaps it's a shallow day, I've got to follow suit. But then sometimes you've got to bide your time. Some people go off like trains, and some people will bide the time, and it'll be like the hare and tortoise effect. So it's a real sort of mixture of things. It's about reading what's going on, and just trying to see if they're reeling in a method feeder, just seeing what colour boilie they've got on, or wafter, or washter, or whatever. You know, watching what they've cast out, and then watching what they're reeling in. So if they're reeling in skimmers, but you think you need 3 or 4 carp, then you can carry on doing what you're doing, bide your time. If they're reeling in carp and you're only catching skimmers, then you need to know, do you have to make a gamble? And also, what are you fishing for? You know, are you fishing for points? Are you fishing for, do you need to come top 3 in a section? Do you need to win the match? Is it a winner takes all matches at Fishermania qualifier or a match this qualifier? They really affect your decisions. You know, knowing, you know, you're not going to fish for your section in a Fishermania qualifier when you know only one person in the 100 peg match is going to qualify. You know, you've got to fish positive and try and fish to win the match really. So that changes the mindset. But if you was fishing for say it's an 8, 9, 10 peg section, it completely changes your mindset, and then you've got to figure in safer things. What's going to get you top 3 in your section? You know. Do you need some silvers? Can you fish a bit finer and catch a bit of everything? Or, you know, just being a little bit more cautious with all your feed, and that not blowing your peg, not taking the gambles, which you probably would on a Fishermania winner takes all qualifier. So those sorts of things come into match management. But the other thing as well to consider is where you start and end your match, and where you fish the middle parts of your match or your session. And sometimes they'll read a script and you can start short and then you go out long to an island or out shallow, and then you come down the margins in the last hour. That's textbook, you know, that's a textbook way of fishing. But sometimes they don't follow those sort of patterns. Sometimes if you're catching really well shallow, you don't need to come off that. You know, I've seen people come off the shallow line because they think, well, oh, it's the last hour, I must catch down the edge. But if they'd have looked around, they'd have seen no one else was catching round the edge. So there was no need to come down the edge themselves. Wait till other people are catching, and that can dictate what you do. But the thing to do for me is to not go all gung-ho and only set up 2 rigs, a rod or whatever, and just say, I'm just going to fish the method today, or I'm just going to fish pace today, or whatever. To me, I don't ever fish that way unless it's like a 3-hour evening sprint or something like that. Then I think it's important to cover all your bases really. Think what could happen, or what's most likely to happen, and have rigs to cover that. So if you have an arrival of carp, then you need the rigs for it. But if it's a hard day, you need more delicate, more sort of all-round, more sensitive rigs and smaller baits. So that's match management for me, is reading what's going on and having the rigs to cover every eventuality really, but still having a loose game plan. For me, 9 times out of 10, I like to start short. It doesn't matter if I'm after carp or F1s or silverfish. You know, generally starting short is a really safe way of catching. Nice and comfortable place to fish. You're not going past feeding fish. and it's comfortable to look around and see what everyone else is doing. Sometimes only for 5-10 minutes, but it still gives you a good idea, lets you see what everyone else is doing. Whereas I know some people like to go straight out, bang, 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 get into the fish from the off and sort of dominate areas. But for me, I like to start short generally, and that's good match management to me. It's just worked well for me many times. So yeah, hopefully that's answered it. A bit of a long-winded answer, but there we are. So anyway, we've not had a bite yet, but I'm not too concerned. To be honest, getting a bite is not as important as answering a few questions. But not even a wobble yet. That's all right. Feed a few more maggots. I've got a pint of old red maggots, double maggot on the hook. And what have I fed? I've fed about 8, 9, 10 times now. Just 6 to 10 maggots at a time. Oh, that was a bite. Hey! Right, we've not blanked. And to me, on these sessions, that's the biggest thing for me, not blanking. What is it? Is that a rudd or a roach? Oh, it's a rudd. It's very coloured, this lake, so it's not as vivid as some rudd, but that might be a good thing. Oh yeah, a little block of ice. There we are. A little rudd. Slipping back. Well, we've not blanked, so I'm more than happy now. I could end just then. Let's answer a few more questions and see. Well, that's a good sign, because silverfish will spur the bigger fish on. But I'll happily just keep catching a few of those rudd, to be honest. That was on the drop. Feed a few more maggots and see what else we've got. Right, let's see. Hi John. Oh, this is from Tim Carp Master Tadgel. I think it's Tadgel. Hi John. Watch what I say there. Oh, it's gone. Yeah, we've got an arrival now. Another rudd. Might be the same one now. He's slightly bigger. Yeah, look at that. Nice little rudd. Oh, good. I'm glad we've caught. Proper smash those maggots. Right, that question was, what shotting patterns do you use? Now, I'm assuming he's referring to pole fishing without any more specifics in the question. I just assume he's on about pole fishing and pole fishing on commercials. Now, I've got a very tried and tested way of shotting for commercials. In summer, if I'm bottom fishing, I've been doing extremely well with just a bulk above a 6-inch hook length or a 4-inch hook length, and then if it's a bit harder, I'll go a bulk on one dropper, and that's generally all I need in the height of summer. And as soon as things get a little bit harder, I'll be moving to a bulk and 2 droppers. Oh, this is all right, they've arrived. So a bulk and 2 droppers, and by droppers I mean shot. So say the bulk's 18 inches away from the hook, then my 2 droppers will be 6 inches apart. And the size of those shot will vary, but 8s, 9s, 10s generally. Maybe 11s if it was silverfish, or winter F1s. I'm going to feed before fishing this time. Bigger pouch. Yeah, so a bulk in summer, and then I'll start spreading it out to a bulk and 1, bulk and 2. But my favourite shotting pattern is what I use at this time here in the winter, is a spread bulk or a chain of shot in the bottom half, sometimes the bottom 2/3 of the rig. So if the swim's sort of 5 foot deep, then I'll spread my shot out in the bottom 3 foot, and normally 11s, sometimes number 12s, real nice airy fairy drop in the bottom half. Sometimes they'll sort of taper out and just get a little bit tighter together as they go further up towards the float. I've heard that being called an Italian shotting pattern. It's what they use on Bolognese rigs and stuff, and it just keeps it stable, but it also just encourages that nice slow fall, and you're not bombing the bait down too fast. But if the fish turn up, then bulk it all down and bomb it down a little bit more. So yeah, I'm one of these anglers that will move my shot around quite a bit. So I know a lot of people seem to fix it there and that's it, but I've always been a person that believes in moving your shot around to suit what's happening. So I generally use sort of Balabini round shot, and I pinch it on in such a way that I can move it up and down. I'm really confident. I'll do a video on making rigs and how I put my shot on and everything, and hopefully that will help. Someone's playing with that. Definitely a wobble. Probably should have struck. Let's give it a twitch. Just dragging a little bit now. So yeah, in summer, as positive as I can. A bulk is the best arrangement I can do if I'm fishing down the edge or on the deck, than just a bulk. The bites are so positive for most species that you don't need much else than that. And then I'll spread things out if things are a little bit funnier, a little bit iffier. It's not been touched. So, and if I'm fishing shallow, then my general rule is for F1s a bulk just above a 3 or 4 inch hook length. And if I'm fishing for carp, nothing at all down the line. I could be fishing anything from a foot to 3 foot deep, nothing at all down the line, because those fish will take it at all different levels. With F1s, you can generally fix it at a depth, and the way the fish take it and snap at it sort of lends itself to having a bulk. And the bites are so fast you'll miss bites if you don't. But with carp in general, you don't miss the bites so much. And in my experience, just having nothing at all down the line works really, really well. But you've got to think, what do you want your hook bait to do? If you're ever confused about shotting, ask yourself, what do you want your hook bait to do? And also, what are the conditions? What's the depth? How can you get your hook bait down to where you want it and keep presenting it there? And that's all you're trying to do. And also sinking the line, getting the line through the water fast enough as well. That's it. They're the things you've got to ask yourself. It's not about, do I use this shotting pattern, this shotting? You've got to ask yourself, what do I want my hook bait to do? And that's it, really. You want your hook bait to behave how you want it to behave, get it to where you want it to get it, and show up bites. And if you're doing that, then your shotting pattern's right. And if you're not, then I'll move my shot around. Hope that makes sense. It's a bit waffly, isn't it? So shotting pattern's such a broad subject, and it depends on the time of the year and the species you're fishing for, and what you're trying to achieve with your hook bait and your feeding, really, and just tailoring it to that. Well, we've had 3 ruds, so that's as good as anything on a day like today. Suddenly got very generous with my feed, but that's not a bad thing. But if there's rudder about, they'll be intercepting it. Let's see, what else have we got? Something a bit more. All right, Jeff Pearson. In commercial fishing, do you think eyed hooks have any advantage over spade end hooks, excluding hair rigging? Yes, definitely. I'm a fan of spade end hooks, definitely. And in the main, I'll use spade end hooks, but I sometimes use an eyed hook for 2 reasons. One, pace fishing. I love using an eyed hook. I used to use an old pellet waggler pattern for a lot of my pace fishing in a size 12. Nice big hook. And the eye helps the pace stay on, and it also means you can whip down nicely and leave a long tag, and it's just nice. It just works really well for me. So I've used an eyed hook for a lot of my pace fishing for a number of years now. And pace fishing is quite brutal anyway. You're fishing thick lines, which is the other reason why I would use an eyed hook. I tend to still tie it on like a spade end pattern. You could still tie it. You could tie it on with a knotless knot, no problem at all. But I tend to tie it on with like I would a spade end. But the eye, being so much bigger and rounder than a sharp spade, with thick lines, sort of 020 and real snaggy sort of pegs, 020, 023 sort of lines, and really snaggy sort of pegs. I just think your line will whip nicely and tighter and won't pull over the spade under pressure like it can on a spade, because most spades aren't massive. They're all right for up to about 020, but an eyed hook offers you a bit more purchase for really thick lines. But the other time I'll use them as well, if I am hair rigging, I'll often just chop my hair off, my band or my pin. If I'm method feeder fishing, I use a lot of bayonets and pins and spikes. I won't bite it off. I'll cut it off, and I'll just hook, say, 2 maggots or an expander or some corn straight on the hook. So that's the other time, and I never have any problems like that either. A good friend of mine, he only ever used to tie, he couldn't tie a spade and hook himself, but he could tie a knotless knot. So all his rigs were with an eyed hook, tied knotless knot style, and he just chopped the band off if he wanted to use it normally. And sometimes he just tie them knotless knot style without even tying a band on at the end. So yeah, there's no problem with using eyed hooks. I personally prefer spade hooks for most of my fishing, but I do use eyed mostly for sort of power and hit and hold sort of work and thick lines. So we'll answer one more question. Oh, something snaffled that when I wasn't looking. And one more question, and then we'll probably wrap it up there. I'm literally going to have a quick hour and that's it. You know, it's what's the time now? It must be quarter to 3 now. No, it's not. It's 25 to 3. And it's going to get very cold very quickly. I think I put 3 maggots on then. I wasn't paying attention. See if we can catch one more rudd. Lovely way of fishing, especially with no wind or a little breeze off my back. Oh, Mark Beckson. Do you think carp are getting too big for match fishing, or do you think this is the way match fishing is going? Yeah, in a way I think they are getting too big. I love catching 10-pound plus fish, but the problem with them when they get that size, they decide when they want to feed. And I'm not a fan of matches where someone catches 3 10-pound fish and wipes out a hard-earned 30-pound bag of other fish or smaller fish, or where it comes down to his 3 fish are bigger than my 3 fish. They're not my sorts of matches. I understand the attraction to them, but for me, a hell of a lot more luck comes into play then. You could say, yes, there's a way of singling out bigger fish, but sometimes if someone's caught 3 8-pound fish and someone else has caught 3 10-pound fish, then it's I think they're getting a bit big, yeah, definitely. I love catching big carp. I think I've caught 3 20-pound carp this year in different matches, which is phenomenal. Well, I think actually one was 19 pound 8 ounces or something. But so they're getting massive, these fish, and they're lovely to catch. And it's nice that they're in these lakes, because if you are falling behind, you've got a chance of catching back up. I had the biggest fish prize in Fishermania at Hayfield once with what was that, about 14-pound fish. So there's an excitement to catching big fish. But if they're all big, if they're all averaging 8 to 12 pound, yeah, maybe they're getting a bit big, especially in winter when they become so hard to catch. And when they get to that size, they decide when they want to feed. So I know when Makins first was built, phase 3, they were supposed to, once they got to sort of 5 pound, they were supposed to take those fish out and distribute them around the lakes and put more pound, 2 pound, 3 pound fish in. Well, that never ever happened, way back from when Billy Makin used to have it, and it still doesn't happen now. So that although the fish are generally a bit small and stunted, there's still a lot of big fish. And I actually think on a snake lake, once a fish gets past 5 pound, they're probably too big. So yeah, I think fish have got a bit big. I love catching them. I love all these venues. They're quite special venues. Look at Rolfs Lake, look at Viaduct Fishery, Hayfield, they're quite big, you know, Decoy Lakes. I fish all those sorts of venues, and I absolutely love catching big carp. Boddington, and again, I love fishing there in the summer. But realistically, yeah, they are getting a bit big, because I do love catching pound, 2 pound, 3 pound sort of pasty sized carp as well. I get as much enjoyment as that. Quite technical fishing, both styles are very, very technical. The problem with the big carp as well, you never ever want to scale down. You're scared to scale down, because if you do hook one, you're going to lose it. So yeah, that's the issue with big carp as well, and everything's getting beefed up, and it suddenly becomes harder to catch the smaller fish. Plus also, if 20-30 pound winds and it's quite likely you're going to catch 2 or 3 carp, then it rules out fishing for silverfish as well. So you know, whereas if suddenly if the carp are all 2 and 3 pound and there's a lot of like 8, 10, 12 ounce, pound, 2 pound silverfish, then you've got that option of fishing for both. Ooh, hey up. Oh, I thought I had a bigger fish then. That was on the bottom. Certainly no short of rudd in the place. Anyway, lovely to catch in December. So yeah, and my other issue with big carp is you know, if they're £10, should they really be in like a 30-metre wide snake lake when you're all sat 10 metres apart? Because the inevitable is going to happen. You're going to hook one, it's going to go through the next person's swim, and you know, there's nothing you can do about it really. It's the fact that you've got massive fish in a venue that's too small for them really. So, but great to catch. If I had a fishery, I'd leave the big ones in a big lake full of specimen anglers or runs water anglers. Put a few in. It's always nice to have a few surprise fish. But yeah, keep fish on the smaller side. Match size carp. What I class as a match size carp is anything up to sort of 6, 7, maybe 8 pound. Once you get past that, then yeah, we're definitely moving into different territories. But there's a load of anglers that just like to catch big carp, and fair play to them. I love catching them too. Ooh. Right, we have one more fish, and I'll ring that person back. So definitely time to wrap it up. I've answered a few questions. I'll certainly answer a few more next time. But oh, where's my hook bait? Where's my float gone? My hook bait gone? What we got here? This feels a bit bigger. What we got? Ah, it's a footballer. Got a perch. Snaffled. Go on now, I'm going to have one more cast, one more question, and then we've definitely got to call it a day. Enjoyed this. Great big pouch. See what happens. Should we answer one more question? 999K Ram. I don't know if that's a music expression or what. That's his name anyway. Dobbing bread. Would you dob up against reeds or would you dob away from the bank, e.g. 3 or 4 feet? Both, definitely. I generally tend to start away from the cover and then move tighter to the cover if you have to. It's certainly easier to catch them and draw them away if you're fishing away from the cover. And sometimes you find little rudd and roach are right against the cover as well. So so I generally start away, but I'll quickly move towards it. You can sometimes get a feeling. It depends how dense the reed bed is as well, whether they're swimming in amongst the stems or not. But generally I'll start away and then I'll move towards it. But if you've some venues we're doing very well catching sort of 3 foot deep in 4 foot of water or 3.5 foot deep, you know. And what we call deep dobbing now, that's definitely become more and more popular now, and I've won quite a lot of money catching sort of deep when you've not caught fishing up to cover. You've caught in the hollows or the bowls or somewhere where they've just balled up for the winter. So so yeah, I'd have a rig for both. Generally up to cover or a foot away from cover is if I was in doubt, that's where I would go. But generally I like to start away and just gradually work my way closer to the cover. Try and catch what you can before going into the lion's den. That's always been my sort of approach. Don't go straight into where you think you're going to catch. Try and catch in the periphery first, and then hopefully they'll just keep backing away to where they're safe. If you go straight into their home, then they've got nowhere else to go. So so yeah, both really. Hope that answers the question. So let's give this a twitch. You can catch one more fish. I've enjoyed this. And we've had a few rudd and a perch, but a perch isn't a good sign. Doesn't normally mean there's much house feeding. Tell you what we haven't done, we've not had a further cast off the back of where that loose feed has been. I've been drawing it back in, so we've still got 2 maggots on, yep. Beautiful day for waggler fishing as well, and I tell you what, I can even feel my fingers. That was my biggest worry today. I'd even be able to feel my fingers at 3 o'clock 10 to 3. So one more bite, one more fish. We'll knock it on the head, and then we'll answer some questions on my next session. Might be on a canal or a river. I might come back here. It's nice here. Might come back here. Yeah. Oh, oh. There you go. Feels a bit nicer. Might even need my landing net for this. What we got? Is it a big rud? Oh, we'll net him. A nice big rud. Or is it a roach? Oh no, it's a roach. Oh yeah. There we are. Double maggot. Block of ice. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my little short Q&A session with a bit of fishing thrown in for good measure. If you've got any more questions, just fire them below. Don't forget to like and subscribe my channel, and hopefully I'll do a few more of these.